Today, we are diving into this incredible, timeless story. It's really all about a simple truth. Giving up is easy, but pushing through, well, that can change everything.
So, let's just start with a feeling that I am sure we've all had. That exact moment when you've given something your all, you've poured everything into it, and you still feel like you've got nowhere left to go. You've just hit a complete dead end. A wall.
And that exact feeling, well, that is right at the heart of our story today. It all starts with a monk who, after 3 whole months of really intense meditation, just saw no results. Nothing. And feeling totally defeated, he just quit. He packed it in and went back to the monastery.
Now, when the Buddha asked him, "Hey, why you back?" the monk's answer was just heartbreaking. He said he felt he was an ahapapa bugala. And what that means is he thought he was someone who was just fundamentally incapable of reaching enlightenment. He had completely lost all faith in himself.
But you know what? The Buddha saw something totally different. He wasn't looking at the monk in his moment of despair. He saw who this man had been before, and to remind him, he told everyone a story from a past life, a time when this exact monk was the absolute living definition of perseverance.
So the Buddha's story takes us way back to one of his own past lives, where he was a caravan leader about to take on this massive, incredibly dangerous journey.
Just try to picture this scene, okay? A huge caravan of 500 carts, all loaded down with goods, merchants, their cattle, all of them just sitting on the edge of this vast, intimidating desert.
And we're not talking about just any desert. Oh no, this was a brutal 960-kilometer stretch of nothing. The sand was apparently so fine you couldn't even hold it in your hand, and during the day it was literally as hot as burning coals. So the only way to get across was to travel at night, with only the stars to guide them.
For almost 2 full months, everything went to plan. They were so close, with just 1 night left. Thinking, hey, we're basically there, they dumped all their extra water and wood. Big mistake. Because that night, their navigator, just totally exhausted, fell asleep. And without him, the oxen just turned. The whole caravan walked all night long, only to end up exactly where they started the day before.
When the sun came up, the realization just crashed down on them. They were lost. No water, no wood. Complete panic just washed over the whole camp. The merchants pretty much just gave up on the spot. They unhooked their oxen and just lay down under their carts, totally resigned to their fate. It's that feeling, right? That moment in a project where the setback is so big, it just feels easier to quit.
But here's the thing. While the entire group was surrendering to despair, the caravan leader, the Bodhisattva, who would one day become the Buddha, he knew that this was the moment that mattered most.
His thinking was crystal clear. If I give up, everyone dies. So while everyone else just lay there, defeated, he absolutely refused to surrender. He started walking around the edge of the camp, just scanning the barren landscape, looking for any sign of hope at all. And then he saw it, a single clump of kusa grass. Now this is the crucial part of the story. He knew that this particular type of grass could only survive if there was water deep, deep underground. See? This wasn't just blind hope. This is our first real look at what the story calls wise perseverance. It's effort that's guided by knowledge and by paying attention.
So he rallied the men, right? Their hope was sparked again, and they just started digging like crazy. They dug 60 cubits down, that's almost 30 meters, and then, clang, their shovels hit something hard, a massive, solid slab of rock. And just like that little flicker of hope, gone. Everyone dropped their shovels and gave up. Again.
So right here, this is the critical difference. Everyone else saw a final roadblock, an impassable barrier. But the leader? He saw the final obstacle. He actually climbed down into that deep, dark hole, pressed his ear flat against the cold stone, and just listened. And through that solid rock, he heard it, the faint but unmistakable sound of water flowing underneath.
He called down to his most loyal attendant, the one guy who hadn't completely given in to despair, and gave him one last critical order. He reminded him what was at stake for all of them and handed him this heavy iron hammer.
So with the lives of everyone in those 500 parts resting on his shoulders, the attendant swung that hammer. And the rock, the one that seemed so permanent, so final, it shattered. A column of water as wide as a palm tree just erupted from the ground, saving every single person in that caravan.
And this is just such a brilliant illustration of the lesson the Buddha was trying to teach. He drew this perfect parallel, saying, just as those men, who were not lazy, dug through sand and rock to find life-saving water, a person who is persistent on their spiritual path will absolutely find what they're looking for.
And what is it they're looking for? Peace of mind. And this isn't just, feeling calm for a minute. We're talking about that profound tranquility, that deep insight that only comes from wise, tireless effort. It's the goal of the whole entire journey.
And then came the big reveal. The Buddha explained that the wise caravan leader, well, that was a past life of himself. The people in the caravan, those were his current disciples. And the attendant, the hero who refused to give up and smash that rock, that was the very same monk who, just moments before, had said he was incapable of success. Can you imagine hearing that? Hearing this story about your own incredible life-saving perseverance from a past life? It must have shaken him to his core. He was reminded of the strength that was already inside him all along. He was so inspired, he went right back to his practice with this renewed fire, and soon after, he achieved the very thing he thought was impossible.
It's an amazing story, right? But what does it mean for us, here and now? Why does this ancient tale still hit so hard today?
Well, it teaches us that real perseverance isn't just banging your head against a wall. It's wise effort. It's noticing the kusa grass when everyone else just sees sand. It's about looking and listening just a little bit closer when a challenge feels impossible. It shows us that obstacles that feel final, like that solid rock, might just be the very last barrier before a huge breakthrough. And maybe most importantly, it reminds us that our own past successes are the best proof of our future potential.
And really, that leaves all of us with a final thought. We all have our own deserts to cross, and we all have rocks that block our path. So the question is, what's the rock in your life right now? Maybe in your work, your relationships, your personal goals. What's that one obstacle that feels absolutely final, but just might shatter if you give it one more wise, determined strike?
Thank you for joining me for this explainer. And in the spirit of this story, which shows that incredible relief that comes after a long, hard struggle, may you all be happy.